Guys, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I'm here to share a process video with you on how I made this anniversary card. This is a card that I've made for my mom and dad, whose wedding anniversary is coming up very soon. And this is my entry into Marcia, who is ZeeCee Creations here on YouTube, her 100 Subbie Appreciation Giveaway Challenge. And I just remember when I reached 100 subbies, well, actually, when I reached 50 subbies, I was beyond ecstatic. It's so exciting when you first start on YouTube crafting and people are so encouraging and supportive. So I just wanted to spread the YouTube love and support Marcia. And if you guys get a chance, please go check out her channel and her challenge giveaway. I will put a link in the description box. I picked out this little prince, that's this guy right here, Leonard, from the Greeting Farm Ever After set, because I think he's so flirty. And my dad, who's in his 80s, is very flirty. And then I picked this little girl, Sheena, to represent my mom because she looks so prim and proper, and that's how my mom is. So I colored them up, fussy cut them, popped them up on foam adhesive, and for the sentiment Happy Anniversary, I used the Tim Holtz Alterations Celebrate die set. So many useful die cut words. I used the happy and the anniversary from that. And for the inside, I used the sentiment stamp from the stamp set, Dreams Do Come True, since it's their anniversary. And then you'll see in the process video that I had some smears from stamping the sentiment. So I ended up fussy cutting out these beautiful cherry blossom flowers and putting them on the inside, which I really like how that turned out. So sometimes mistakes are a godsend. They make your cards even better. And I had one more fussy cut cherry blossom left over, so I put that on the envy. I hope you enjoy the process video. I stamped out all of these images from that stamp set using the MFT Black Licorice dye ink, which is Copic or alcohol marker friendly. And the first thing I'm doing is just putting down a base coat of the lightest skin tone that I'm planning to use for both the little prince and the princess. If you're interested in the particular colors that I used, please check out my blog, which I'll link to in the description box below, and all of the colors will be listed there. Now I'm going in and just marking in where the shadowed areas would be, on the edges of the face, under her arms, and along the hairline. I do that for both of the characters, and I'm not worried about how thick or thin the shadowed area markings are because this is just the medium tone of the skin, and I'm going to be going in with a darker shade now, actually. And with a darker color, also, I'm not really trying to make this very thin. In fact, I think it gives a more realistic or rounded look to the images when you have a darker shaded area. And I think that that is just what happens when you include the full range of tones in a color. So going from all the way to the lightest tone to a medium and then through to the dark, having that full range gives a much more realistic, rounded three-dimensional look. Now I'm covering up the lined areas and I'm blending them out. I'm using the medium tone again, and when you first start blending, it doesn't look like it's blending very well. You almost have to wait a little bit for the alcohol to evaporate, and then you'll see that the lines demarking one color to another will really blend away. Because these little Greeting Farm images don't have noses, I've actually drawn in a little curve where I think the nose should be. And I did that with the darkest shadow color, and then I'm also blending that out underneath with the medium. And then on either side of the nose, where the bridge of the nose would be, I'm using the medium tone shade. That leaves the middle area, the forehead, and on the bridge of the nose to be colored in with the lightest skin tone. And I think that that gives a really nice three-dimensional look to the faces. To give the little prince a rosy glow, I'm using R30, which is a very pale pink. And I'm taking that all the way from the sides of his face toward the middle of his face under his eyes. And I'm blending out the edges with the lighter skin tone. And I go from the skin to the blushed area and then back out again. And that really blends out the blush area and doesn't leave any harsh lines. For the little girl, I wanted to give her a brighter pink hue, so I'm using R20. I tend to do that. I use R20 for girls and R30 for boys. To color in the little princess hair, I am starting with a medium cool gray. I tend to like to use cool grays for more animated characters. The more realistic ones that are human or animals, I'll go for the warmer grays if I want a black color. And I'm also using a medium tone to start, just marking in where the shadows are, because if I somehow make a mistake and don't like it, I know I can cover it up with a darker shade that I will be using for sure to deepen the whole range of tones in the hair. So I'm marking in kind of where the hair would end, behind the ears, at the part. Those are the areas that are going to have the darkest areas, and the bumps or the tops of the hair, those are going to have the highlights. So I've gone in with the medium, and now I'm going in with the dark gray, and I'm just extending the lines, the same ones that I had placed in, just to mark where the shadows would be or where the deepest tones would be. And I'm trying to follow the curve of the little boy's head. And that's why you see me turning the paper from time to time, because it's easier to flick, into a curve, either toward you or fully away from you. But if it's at the wrong angle, it's harder to do. Now I'm going in with the lightest cool gray tone, just to not have the harsh white areas so blatant. And I think that that gives a nice shine to the highlighted areas, just to have a really light cool gray. Finally, for black hair, my little secret or tip is that I use blues. And because my parents are very gray haired, I am using a very pale blue. That's B000. And then lastly, I go back in and reset all the darkest areas with that dark gray again, because a lot of the other medium and light tone grays have a lot of the colorless blender in them. So it pushes or bleaches out the darker colors when you're going back in and putting in the highlights. So I like to, as a last step, always go back in with the darkest shade to kind of reestablish the deepest shadows. So to fussy cut the image, you'll see I'm using my Fiskars spring-loaded scissors, and I barely move the scissors. I'm really turning the image around and keeping my scissors pretty much in one place. And I find that that's the easiest way to do fussy cutting for detailed images. And after I fussy cut both images out, I am inking the edges with a brush tip pen in black. And I just happen to have a Faber-Castell Pitt pen, and I'm making sure I'm getting into those little tiny nooks and crannies by just flipping over the image and getting that brush nib in there. Now I had some leftover crepe paper streamers in my stash, and I thought it would make a very pretty kind of fluttery, box pleated, ruffled area on the card front. And so I'm just using hot glue and kind of box pleating it using my fingers. And I have Teflon fingers, so the hot glue doesn't really bother me, but if it does bother you, please use like a silicone spatula or something like that to get the box pleating done. This comes out so pretty and feminine, adds a really nice dimension, and is super inexpensive and easy to create. To finish off this ruffle, all I'm gonna do is finish off that last box pleat, flip the card front over, glue that last little bit, and cut off the excess. Now, on the raw edge that I want tacked down fully, I am putting on a little bit of tiny pom-pom trim. Most of this trim is going to get covered up, but just seeing those little tiny pom-poms makes me smile, so I'm glad I got to add them. And again, I'm just tacking down the pom-pom trim on the back, and now I am trying to position the little prince and princess. And what I decided to do is to make them level with that ruffle and the pom-pom trim. I'm putting double-sided foam adhesive, and actually I'm finding that the pom-pom trim makes it so dimensional that I'm putting 2 layers of double-sided foam adhesive. And you'll see I'm only putting it on one side of the image because the other side is going to be laying over top of the ruffle and the pom-pom trim. I'm also doing the same thing for the little boy, but again, only part of the image gets that double-sided foam adhesive because he's going to be layered a little bit in front of the little girl. And I'm just adhering the non-foam adhesive side with hot glue. And she's perfectly positioned and secure. And I'm going to do the same thing for the little boy. Now, even though I've colored up the prince and princess in pretty springtime pastel colors, I thought I wanted to add more of a springtime feel by adding these really small mulberry paper roses. And I think I might have gone a little bit too thick with that column of roses, but you know, can you really have too many flowers? And now I'm putting foam adhesive on the back. And again, I'm just trying to make sure that it's all level. And the pom-pom trim and the ruffle on the back give the back of this card front a little bit of dimension. So I wanted to make sure that I added double-sided foam adhesive to the back of that around the rest of the card front. And I'm just positioning it on the lower part of this 5x7 card. And now for the die cut words, happy anniversary, I'm using my art glitter glue, my favorite wet glue with a fine nozzle tip, and I'm putting the words at an angle. I think it adds a nice visual movement. Plus the word anniversary is so long, if I put it straight across the card, it ended up looking a little stiff and crowded. For the inside of the card, I took some pale pink cardstock and I'm stamping out the sentiment from the stamp set, dreams do come true. And I'm using VersaFine ink for that because I find that that is a really good crisp ink to use for sentiments. Now I've flipped over the card front without waiting for it to dry, and I don't know if you see it, but I've got smears on this card inside lining because of that. And so I decided to take a little scrap of pattern paper that I absolutely love, and my mom's favorite flower is the cherry blossom. So it worked out perfectly. I fussy cut out all these flowers and little branches, and I just put 3 little clusters around on the inside of the card. And I think it adds so much to the card. I'm so glad actually that I was forced to figure out what to do to cover up those smears. I hope you enjoyed watching this process video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful crafty day.